You've seen it on the news and you've heard a lot of buzzwords about how real estate market is experiencing a slowdown, and a lot of speculations is going on. Are we heading towards a recession? Are we in a recession? Are we heading towards a bubble or a crash in our housing market? Today we're going to address that concern, and we're going to talk about how interest rate has changed and how does that affect median home prices in our Bay Area 5 counties, as well as days on the market. So stay tuned until the very end. So let's talk about what's going on interest rates. If you're thinking about buying a home, if you're paying attention to real estate news, you know that mortgage interest rate has gone up quite aggressively this year. Earlier this year, in the beginning, around January, February, 30-year mortgage interest rate is about 3.25%. And then in the middle of this year, May, June, we're looking at around 5.25%. So interest rate jumped by 2 percentage points in the first 6 months of this year. Right now, we're in early October of 2022. Interest rate has further adjusted to around 6.5% to 6.75%. So we have seen another 1 percentage jump since the summertime, May-June period. How does that affect the median home prices? We are seeing, since the interest rate started to adjust in early spring, we're seeing a 10% dip in median home prices in the Bay Area 5 counties. We're looking at the data from April to June. We're seeing about 8 to 10% dip in all around us in San Mateo County, in Santa Clara County, Alameda, Contra Costa, and San Francisco County. And then from June to currently October, we have seen another 7 to 8% dip. So altogether, since the mortgage interest rate started to adjust aggressively in April, we're seeing about somewhere between 15 to 18% adjustment in median home prices. What does that mean to you as a home buyer if you're looking to buy a home? That means that mortgage are more expensive for you. You are looking at a higher monthly payment for the same amount of money borrowed from the bank. However, on the inventory side of things, we're seeing more availabilities. Homes are staying on the market for a little longer than before. Let me just look at my chart here. Days on the market, we're seeing 42% increase on days on the market. And what does that translate to? That homes back in early spring were selling in 2 weeks, 10 to 14 days. Now they are staying on the market for somewhere between 20 to 30 days. So that's a significant increase in inventory availability and homes staying on the market for a little longer. And what that means to you as a buyer is that you have more choices. You could afford to explore multiple options before you set your heart on the right home. So that's good news to you, that you definitely have a little bit more breathing room, have a lot more breathing room than earlier this year to buy a home, fewer competition. Generally, the less competition you have, the more room you can decide to read your disclosure. You could decide to have additional inspection done. You could have time to show your mom and dad, your relatives about a home, and then ask for their opinion instead of having to make a decision right away, like many buyers did early this year, and homes were selling like in a week or two. Just to put things in perspective in terms of dollar amount home prices, where things are at now compared to earlier in the springtime. In May, in San Mateo County, the median home prices just over $2 million. Right now, in September, the number have dropped to 1.75. So you're looking at slightly less in terms of a sticker price to get into. And in Santa Clara County, 1.9 million was the median home prices back in May. Now it's at 1.65 million. San Francisco, 2.4, the number back in May, and now it's 1.88. Alameda County, we're seeing currently median home prices is 1.3 for Alameda, and Contra Costa is 1.1 million. So that's a significant drop from earlier this year. And personally, as a real estate agent helping buyers buy a home, that's a great news, because what happened when interest rate was lower around 3.25% back in March and April of 2022 is that that you have to go aggressive. You might be faced with multiple offers. So if a property is listed at 1.5 million, sometimes you have to increase your offer. You have to come in at 1.6, 1.65. Now the situation have completely changed. For the same home, not only is the list price lower than earlier this year, sometimes you don't have to come in at full asking price. You could come in slightly lower and still get it. Again, that depends on whether you have competition or not, and whether a property has been on the market for longer than 3 weeks. If a property has been on the market for longer than 3-4 weeks, typically homes are not selling at asking price. And if there hasn't already been price adjustments, 80% of the time you could almost come in a little lower and still gets accepted if the seller is motivated enough. So that's kind of my experience guiding my buyers buying a home. Many of you are asking, is this the right time to buy? Are the prices going to drop later, in the year, even next year? Well, it is hard to predict the future, but the Federal Reserve Bank, every time they have a meeting, they talk about interest rate increase. So it's likely that mortgage interest rate might get even higher later this year and even into early next year. And what that translates to is possibly further reduction in home prices. So in terms of home prices, it may drop a little bit more later this year or early next year, but you're also looking at a higher mortgage rates. You're looking at more expensive loans. So your monthly payment, even though the price may drop, but you are paying a higher interest rate, it might end up being a wash in terms of your monthly mortgage payment. So just keep that in mind. I would say if you're on the lease and you have housing currently situated, take a little bit longer to explore different options. Maybe explore different zip codes, explore different cities, explore homes options across the bay to see what's out there for the same amount of money you're paying. But don't wait too much longer, because interest rate could go and possibly go a little higher, likely actually to go a little higher. So you might be looking at a more expensive loan to get into. I always like to tell my clients that real estate is a long-term investment. So the plan should be to hold that piece of property for at least 5 to 7 years. If you hold it for 5 to 7 years, you're going to ride out the waves, and you're probably going to see an appreciation at the end, because market tend to appreciate over time. Right now, we're going through some shift. This year, we have seen some decline, and next year, we could see maybe a little bit further decline as interest rate goes up. But if you hold your property for 5 to 7 years, market is going to, correct. It's going to shift upwards at some point. So it's probably all going to work out for you. At the end of the day, please be reminded that there are many tax benefits to owning a home. Your mortgage interest rates, mortgage interest payment, and your property tax could offset your state income tax. And then also, when you sell a home for a gain as a primary homeowner, you could take a tax exclusion to offset some of the home appreciation. So just keep that in mind, the tax benefit as a home ownership. Right now, if you are in the market, there are a lot more options. So it's a good time to look into those options without feeling like you have to make a decision right away. For specific neighborhoods and what your budget can do, give me a call. I love to kind of sit down with you, understand your wants and needs, and figure out a good game plan for you going forward to make sure that you have a wonderful home buying experience. Now you know more about what's going on in today's housing market. I want you to consider real estate as a long-term investment, like I talk about. So watch this video on how I leverage real estate for long-term wealth building.